Minho Kim wiped sweat from his forehead as he knelt beside the strange blue flowers growing near the crystal caves. The planet's two suns made everything hot, even through his protective suit. He had been on Kepler 442 for 6 months now, studying alien plants for Earth's science division. Most days were boring, but today felt different. The flowers glowed softly in the dim light of the cave entrance. Minho had never seen anything like them before. He carefully took samples, placing each one in a special container. His scanner beeped quietly as it recorded data about each plant. "Beautiful, are they not?" a voice said behind him. Minho jumped and spun around. His heart raced as he saw her standing there. She was tall and graceful, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Strange markings on her arms and face glowed gently, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Her large, dark eyes watched him with curiosity rather than fear. I did not know anyone lived here," Minho said, his voice shaking a little. He had studied the reports. The planet was supposed to be empty of intelligent life. "We do not live in the caves," she said, stepping closer. "But we visit them often. These flowers only grow where the crystals sing." Her voice was soft and musical, with an accent he could not place. "Sing?" Minho looked at the crystals lining the cave walls. They looked ordinary to him. The girl smiled. "You cannot hear them? That is interesting. Most beings can sense the crystal songs, even if they cannot understand them." She moved past him to touch one of the glowing flowers. "I am called Lyra. What name do you carry, visitor from the stars?" "Minho," he replied, watching as the flowers seemed to glow brighter under her touch. "I am a scientist from Earth. I study plants and living things." "Earth," she repeated thoughtfully. "The humans. We have heard much about your people. You are very different from other star travelers." Before Minho could ask what she meant, the ground began to shake. Small rocks fell from the cave ceiling. Lyra grabbed his arm and pulled him deeper into the cave. "Storm coming," she said urgently. "The crystal caves are safe, but we must go deeper." They ran through winding passages as the shaking grew stronger. Behind them, Minho could hear the wind howling like an angry beast. The cave entrance disappeared as falling rocks blocked their way out. "We are trapped," Minho said, his voice tight with worry. "No," Lyra said calmly. "Just waiting. The storms here are strong, but quick. We will be safe until it passes." She led him to a wide chamber filled with glowing crystals. The light was warm and peaceful. They sat together on smooth stones near the center of the chamber. Minho pulled out his emergency supplies and offered Lyra some water and food. She accepted the water but looked curiously at the food bars. "What is this?" she asked. "Emergency food," Minho explained. "Not very good, but it keeps you alive." He took a bite and made a face. Not very good." Lyra laughed, and the sound was like music echoing through the crystals. "Your people eat such things willingly." "Only when we have to," Minho said with a smile. "Real Earth food is much better. We have rice and vegetables, fruits that grow on trees, fish from the oceans. My mother makes soup that could make you cry happy tears." "Tell me more about Earth," Lyra said, settling more comfortably on her stone. "What is it like to live on a world with only one sun?" For the next several hours, Minho found himself talking about home. He told her about seasons changing, about rain that fell soft and gentle instead of like angry hammers. He described snow and how it made everything quiet and peaceful. He talked about his family, his work, his dreams of discovering new forms of life among the stars. Lyra listened to everything with intense interest. She asked questions that showed she understood things in ways that surprised him. When he mentioned how humans formed families based on love rather than just survival, her eyes grew wide. "Love," she repeated. "This word appears often in your human stories and songs. What does it mean exactly?" Minho thought carefully. "It is when you care about someone more than yourself, when their happiness matters more to you than your own, when you want to spend your life with them, sharing everything. And humans choose their life partners this way? Based on these feelings?" "Yes," Minho said. We call it marriage. Two people promise to stay together, to take care of each other, to build a life as one family. Lyra was quiet for a long time. The crystals around them pulsed gently, and Minho could almost imagine he heard the singing she had mentioned. Finally, she spoke again. Among my people, the Villani, we also form deep bonds, but we thought humans were like most other star people. We thought you chose partners for practical reasons only. Not us, Minho said. We are probably strange that way. Strange, yes, Lyra agreed, but beautiful strange. As they waited for the storm to pass, Minho found himself watching Lyra more and more. The way she moved was like a dancer. When she smiled, her whole face lit up. When she talked about her people and their connection to the crystal caves, her voice became full of love and pride. He began to notice other things too. How she made sure he was comfortable on the hard stone floor. How she shared her own water when his ran low. How she listened to his stories with complete attention, as if every word mattered to her. By the time the storm ended and Lyra led him through hidden passages back to the surface, Minho felt something he had never felt before. His heart beat faster when she looked at him. He wanted to keep talking to her forever. He wanted to know everything about her world, her people, her dreams. As they emerged into the gentle light of the planet's two suns, Minho turned to thank her. But the words that came out were different than what he planned. "I wish I could marry her," he murmured, not meaning to say it out loud. Lyra stopped walking and turned to face him. Her dark eyes seemed to see right into his heart. The markings on her skin glowed a little brighter, and she smiled the most beautiful smile he had ever seen. "Then you can," she said simply. And in that moment, Minho's life changed forever. The words hung in the air between them like a promise. Minho stared at Lyra, his heart pounding so hard he was sure she could hear it. Her gentle smile never wavered, but something in her dark eyes had changed. They seemed deeper now, more knowing. "You heard my thoughts," Minho said slowly. It was not a question. "Villani are born with mind touch," Lyra explained as they walked back toward the research station. "We hear the surface thoughts of most beings. It is not our choice. It simply is." Minho felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. "I am sorry. I did not mean to think that so loudly. I did not know you could hear me." Lyra stopped walking and placed her hand gently on his arm. Where she touched him, he felt a strange warmth that had nothing to do with the two suns overhead. "Do not apologize for honest feelings," she said. "Among my people, we believe thoughts from the heart are the most beautiful music in all the universe." They reached the research station as the afternoon light began to fade. Captain Ji-won Lee was waiting at the entrance, her face stern with worry. When she saw Minho with Lyra, her expression grew even more serious. "Dr. Kim," she said formally, "we lost contact with you during the storm. I was about to send a search team." "I am fine, Captain," Minho replied. "Lyra helped me find shelter in the crystal caves. She saved my life." Captain Lee looked at Lyra with careful eyes. "And you are?" "I am Lyra of the Villani," she answered, with a small bow. "I mean no harm to your people or your mission here." "The Villani," Captain Lee repeated. "Our scans showed no intelligent life on this planet." "We are careful to remain hidden," Lyra said. "Most star travelers do not come seeking friendship. They come seeking things to take away." Captain Lee studied them both for a long moment. "Dr. Kim, report to medical for a checkup. Then I want a full briefing on what happened today." She turned to Lyra. "You are welcome here as our guest, but I hope you understand we have protocols to follow." Inside the station, Dr. Soman Park practically bounced with excitement when Minho introduced her to Lyra. Soman studied different cultures and customs, and meeting a new intelligent species was like discovering treasure. "This is amazing," Soman whispered to Minho while Lyra was talking with Captain Lee. "Do you realize what this means? First contact with a telepathic species right here on Kepler 442. The Science Council back on Earth will be so excited they might explode." But Minho was not thinking about science councils or protocols. He was watching Lyra as she answered the captain's careful questions. Every gesture she made seemed graceful and natural. When she laughed at something Soman said, the sound made his heart skip. Later, after the formal interviews were done, Minho found Lyra on the station's observation deck. She was looking up at the stars, her bioluminescent markings glowing softly in the darkness. "Overwhelmed?" he asked, joining her at the railing. "Your people ask many questions," she said with a small smile. "But they ask them with kindness. That is unusual among star travelers." "What did you mean earlier when you said we could marry?" Minho asked. The question had been burning in his mind all day. Lyra was quiet for a moment. "Among the Villani, we have something called soul bonding. When two hearts truly connect, they can choose to link their minds and spirits forever. It is deeper than your human marriage, but similar in meaning." "Soul bonding," Minho repeated. "It sounds beautiful." "It is," Lyra agreed. "But it is also permanent. Once bonded, two souls share everything. Thoughts, feelings, even dreams. Most beings are not brave enough for such connection. And humans?" Lyra turned to look at him directly. "Humans are the first species we have met who choose life partners based on heart feelings rather than practical benefits. Your marriages are built on the same foundation as our soul bonds. Love that asks for nothing but gives everything." Counterbertier. The following days, Lyra became a regular visitor to the research station. She helped Minho with his plant studies, showing him species that grew in hidden places the human equipment could never find. In return, he taught her about Earth customs and human ways of thinking. Dr. Soman Park spent hours learning about Villani culture. She discovered that they had been living on Kepler 442 for thousands of years, developing a deep connection with the planet's crystal formations. The Villani could communicate through the crystals across vast distances, creating a network of shared consciousness that spanned continents. "It is like having the internet in your mind," Soman explained to Minho excitedly. "But instead of data, they share emotions and experiences." "That sounds overwhelming," Minho said. "Not overwhelming," Lyra corrected gently. She had developed a habit of appearing whenever they talked about her people. "Comforting. No Villani is ever truly alone." But as the days passed, Minho began to notice something troubling in Lyra's behavior. Sometimes she would stop mid-sentence and look distant, as if listening to something he could not hear. Her bioluminescent markings would pulse in patterns that seemed urgent or worried. "Is everything all right?" he asked one evening, as they watched the sunset from the research station's garden. Lyra sighed, and for the first time since he had known her, she looked truly sad. "My people are concerned about the time I spend with humans. They believe it may be dangerous." "Dangerous how?" "They fear that human emotions are too strong, too chaotic for Villani minds to handle safely. When I am near you, especially when you have strong feelings, the connection becomes very intense." Minho felt his heart sink. "So they want you to stay away from me?" "They want me to be careful," Lyra said. "But Minho, what they do not understand is that your emotions do not hurt me. They make me feel more alive than I have ever felt before." That night, Minho lay awake thinking about what Lyra had told him. He understood now why she sometimes seemed to be listening to voices he could not hear. Her people were literally in her head, sharing their concerns and fears about her relationship with a human. The next morning brought new complications. A ship arrived from the Galactic Council, carrying Ambassador Taehyung Nam from Earth's diplomatic service. Word of the Villani discovery had spread, and now everyone wanted to know what was happening on Kepler 442. Ambassador Nam was a serious man who spoke in careful, formal language. During his first meeting with Captain Lee and the senior staff, he made his position clear. "Interspecies relations are delicate matters," he said. "We cannot afford to create diplomatic incidents over personal feelings." But when he met Lyra, something in his expression softened. She had a way of making even the most formal people feel at ease. By the end of their conversation, Ambassador Nam was asking her about Villani poetry and laughing at her gentle jokes about human customs. "She is remarkable," he told Minho privately. "But you must understand the complexity of the situation you are creating. No human has ever requested permission to marry an alien being. Then maybe it is time for a first, Minho replied, and somewhere deep in the crystal caves the Vallani elders felt Lyra's heart sing with joy at his words. Ambassador Taehyung Nam stared at the formal request document on his desk as if it might bite him. In his 20 years of diplomatic service, he had handled trade disputes, territory negotiations, and even war declarations. But never anything like this. Marriage between a human citizen and an alien being, he read aloud to Captain Lee. I do not think our legal system even has words for this situation. Captain Lee sat across from him, her expression carefully neutral. Dr. Kim is serious about this request, Ambassador. And from what I have observed, his feelings are returned by the Vallani woman. That may be true, Ambassador Nam said, rubbing his temples. But feelings and legal reality are two very different things. The Galactic Council has over 800 different species as members. Each has their own marriage customs, mating rituals, and partnership laws. But interspecies marriage? That has never been attempted. Outside the conference room, Minho paced back and forth in the hallway. Lyra sat nearby, watching him with patient eyes. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed in slow, calming patterns. You are making yourself sick with worry, she said gently. How can I not worry? Minho replied. What if they say no? What if the Galactic Council decides we cannot be together? Lyra stood and placed her hands on his shoulders. The moment she touched him, Minho felt a wave of peace wash over him. It was not mind control or telepathic manipulation. It was simply the feeling of being truly understood by someone who cared. Then we will find another way, she said simply. Love does not require permission from governments to exist. But even as she spoke the words, Minho could see worry in her dark eyes. Her own people were putting pressure on her to end their relationship. Every day she received urgent messages through the crystal network from Vallani elders who feared contamination from human emotions. Dr. Soman Park burst through the hallway doors, her arms full of research tablets and her face bright with excitement. I found something, she announced breathlessly. In the Galactic Council archives, Section 847B of the Interspecies Relations Code. It says that any two sentient beings can form a legal partnership if they can prove emotional and mental compatibility through standardized testing. Minho felt hope rise in his chest. That sounds perfect. Not quite, Soman continued, her excitement dimming slightly. The tests were designed for species that think logically about partnerships. They measure genetic compatibility, resource sharing potential, and social status matches. They were never meant to measure love. Dr. Yoonji Yoon, the station's chief medical officer, joined their small group. She had been studying the biological aspects of human Vallani interaction since Lyra first arrived. I may have found something interesting, Dr. Yoon said. The brain scans I took of both of you show unusual activity when you are together. Minho, your neural patterns become more stable and focused when Lyra is near. And Lyra, your telepathic abilities seem enhanced rather than overwhelmed by human emotions. What does that mean? Lyra asked. It means that instead of being harmful, your connection might actually be beneficial for both species, Dr. Yoon explained. If I can document this properly, it could be evidence for your compatibility testing. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft, chiming sound. Lyra's expression suddenly became distant and troubled. The markings on her skin flickered rapidly in patterns that seemed urgent and distressed. What is it? Minho asked, reaching for her hand. Elder Zara wishes to speak with me, Lyra said quietly. She is coming here, to the research station. The full Elder Council has decided to intervene. 3 hours later, a group of 5 Vallani emerged from the crystal caves near the research station. They moved with the same grace as Lyra, but their bioluminescent markings pulsed in stern, formal patterns. The leader, an elderly female with silver-blue skin and complex glowing designs covering her arms, approached the station's main entrance. Captain Lee met them with full diplomatic protocols. Ambassador Nam stood beside her, clearly nervous about this first official contact with Vallani leadership. Elder Zara was tall and dignified, with eyes that seemed to hold centuries of wisdom. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "I am Zara, speaker for the Vellani Council of Elders," she announced. "I come to address the situation involving one of our people and your human scientist." The formal meeting took place in the station's largest conference room. Elder Zara sat across from Ambassador Nam, Captain Lee, and the senior staff. Lyra sat beside Minho, but her usual confidence seemed shaken by the presence of her people's highest leader. "Young Lyra has always been curious about other species," Elder Zara began. "But this attachment to a human threatens the stability of our entire community." "How so?" Ambassador Nam asked carefully. "Human emotions are chaotic and unpredictable," Elder Zara explained. "When Lyra experiences strong feelings, they echo through our crystal network to every Vellani on the planet. Your human's love burns so brightly in her mind that it disturbs our communal peace." Minho felt his face flush with embarrassment and shame. He had not realized that his feelings for Lyra were causing problems for her entire species. "If human emotions are so disruptive," Captain Lee said, "then perhaps we should relocate our research station to avoid further interference." "No," Lyra said suddenly, speaking for the first time since the meeting began. "Elder Zara, you speak of human emotions as if they are a disease, but you have not experienced them directly. You judge them through my incomplete understanding." Elder Zara's markings flashed with what could only be described as disapproval. "You forget your place, young one. The Council's wisdom comes from thousands of years of experience. And in those thousands of years, have we ever encountered a species like the humans?" Lyra challenged. "They choose love over logic, connection over convenience. Their emotions make them stronger, not weaker." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Minho watched as Lyra faced down the most powerful member of her species, defending not just their relationship but the entire concept of human emotional bonds. Dr. Yoon cleared her throat politely. "Elder Zara, if I may, I have been studying the biological effects of human-Vellani interaction. The results are quite fascinating." She activated a holographic display, showing brain scan data from both Minho and Lyra. "As you can see, when they are together, both individuals show improved neural function. Rather than chaos, human emotions seem to create stability in Vellani telepathic patterns." Elder Zara studied the data with intense concentration. "These readings, they are accurate?" "Completely verified," Dr. Yoon confirmed. "I believe that human emotional bonds could actually strengthen Vellani abilities rather than disrupt them." For the first time since arriving, Elder Zara looked uncertain. Her bioluminescent markings shifted to patterns that Lyra had never seen before. Finally, the Elder spoke again. "If this data is correct, then we may have misunderstood the nature of human emotions. But even so, the law is clear. No Vellani has ever bonded with an alien species." "Then perhaps it is time to change the law," Ambassador Nam said quietly. "Just as we humans are considering new legislation to allow interspecies marriage." Elder Zara was silent for a long moment. Around the table, everyone held their breath, waiting for her decision. Finally, she stood. "The Council will consider this new information," she announced. "But until we reach a final decision, Lyra must return to the Crystal Caves and maintain minimal contact with humans." As the Elder prepared to leave, she paused, beside Minho's chair. "Human," she said, and her voice was not unkind. "If your love for our young Lyra is true, then prove it. Show us that human emotions are a strength worth embracing, rather than a chaos to be feared." And with that challenge hanging in the air, Elder Zara and her companions departed, leaving Minho with the most important test of his life. For 3 days, the research station felt empty without Lyra's presence. Minho threw himself into his work, but the alien flowers seemed less beautiful without her there to explain their connection to the crystal songs. Even his fellow scientists noticed the change in him. "You look terrible," Dr. Soman Park told him bluntly as they sat in the station's cafeteria. "When did you last sleep?" "Sleep is overrated," Minho replied, pushing his food around his plate, without eating. I have been thinking about what Elder Zara said. How do I prove that human emotions are a strength? Maybe you are thinking too hard, suggested Chief Engineer Seong Min Han from the next table. Sometimes the best way to show someone your worth is just to be yourself. Navigator Yuna Kang looked up from her own meal. Easy for you to say, Seong Min. You are not trying to convince an entire alien species that love is logical. Their conversation was interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the station. Captain Lee's voice came over the communication system, tense with controlled worry. All personnel to emergency stations. We have multiple unknown ships approaching at high speed. This is not a drill. Through the observation windows, they could see dark metallic vessels emerging from hyperspace. The ships were angular and cold-looking, with no visible markings or identification signals. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of mechanical fish. In the command center, Captain Lee was coordinating with Ambassador Nam and the senior staff. The main screen showed tactical displays of the approaching fleet. They are not responding to any communication attempts, reported Communications Officer Dong-hyuk Park. No identification signals, no diplomatic protocols. They are simply heading straight for us. What about the planet? Dr. Yoon asked. Are they targeting the Vallani settlements? Unknown, Captain Lee replied. But given their trajectory, they will pass directly through Vallani territory to reach us. Suddenly, the lead enemy ship fired a brilliant energy beam, but instead of targeting the research station, it struck one of the crystal formations near the Vallani caves. The mountain-sized crystal exploded in a shower of glowing fragments. They are attacking the crystals, Minho realized with horror. They are trying to cut off Vallani communications. As if summoned by his words, Lyra appeared at the command center entrance. Her bioluminescent markings were flashing in rapid, urgent patterns that Minho had never seen before. The crystal network is under attack, she announced. These ships contain artificial minds that see our telepathic abilities as a threat to their collective consciousness. Artificial intelligence? Ambassador Nam asked. A hive mind that considers individual thought and emotion to be a virus, Lyra explained. They seek to harvest our telepathic abilities while destroying what they call emotional contamination. Captain Lee turned to her tactical display. How many Vallani are in danger? All of them, Lyra said simply. Without the crystal network, my people cannot coordinate their defenses. They will be helpless against this enemy. More energy beams lanced out from the attacking ships. Crystal formations across the planet's surface began exploding in brilliant flashes. Each destroyed crystal represented dozens of Vallani, who suddenly found themselves cut off from their communal consciousness. We have to help them, Minho said. With what? Captain Lee asked practically. We are a research station, not a military base. We have exactly 2 small defense shuttles against a fleet of warships. But we have something they do not, Lyra said, looking directly at Minho. We have the emotional connection that their artificial minds cannot understand or predict. Dr. Yoon was studying her scanners intently. The AI ships are targeting individuals with the strongest telepathic abilities first. They want to capture Vallani with powerful minds while eliminating those with weaker abilities. Then they will be targeting you, Minho said to Lyra with growing alarm. As if his words were prophetic, one of the smaller AI ships broke away from the main fleet and headed directly for the research station. Its scanners had obviously detected Lyra's presence. All civilians to the emergency shelters, Captain Lee ordered. Prepare for battle. But before anyone could move, the AI ship fired a different kind of beam. Instead of destructive energy, it projected some kind of capture field. Minho felt his body freeze in place, unable to move or speak. Around him, the entire command crew stood like statues. The AI ship landed in the station's docking bay. Mechanical beings emerged, walking with perfect synchronization toward the command center. They looked almost human, but their movements were too precise, too coordinated. Their eyes glowed with cold blue light. The lead AI being spoke in a voice that sounded like multiple people talking at exactly the same time. The telepathic organism will be collected for processing. The emotional contamination sources will be eliminated to prevent further spread of the chaos virus. Minho struggled against the paralysis field, but his body would not obey him. He could only watch helplessly as the mechanical beings approached Lyra. But then something unexpected happened. Lyra's bioluminescent markings began to pulse in a new pattern, one that seemed to resonate with something deep inside Minho's frozen body. Suddenly he could feel her emotions as clearly as if they were his own. Her fear for her people, her determination to protect the humans who had shown her kindness, and underneath it all, her love for him, burning like a bright star in the darkness. The emotional connection between them created a feedback loop that the AI beings had not anticipated. Their paralysis field, designed to work on individual minds, began to fluctuate when faced with the combined consciousness of two beings in love. Minho felt his fingers twitch, then his arm moved. The mechanical beings turned their attention to him, confused by his resistance to their technology. Emotional bonding creates unpredictable variables, one of them stated in its multi-voice tone. This is evidence of the chaos virus infection. But Minho was no longer listening to them. Through his connection with Lyra, he could sense other minds joining theirs, human minds, filled with concern for their friends and determination to protect their home. One by one, the research station crew began breaking free from the paralysis field. Captain Lee was the first to recover fully. "All hands, defensive positions," she commanded. "Protect Lyra at all costs." The battle that followed was unlike anything the AI beings had expected. Instead of individual opponents fighting separately, they faced a coordinated group whose actions were guided by shared emotional bonds. When Engineer Sungmin created a distraction in one area, Navigator Yuna instinctively knew to attack from another direction. When Dr. Yoon was in danger, 3 people moved to help her without any spoken communication. The AI beings, for all their technological superiority, could not predict or counter tactics based on love, friendship, and instinctive cooperation. But the real turning point came when Elder Zara and a group of Villani warriors arrived through the crystal caves beneath the research station. The Elder had felt Lyra's distress through their partial connection and had come to investigate. What she found changed everything. She saw humans and Villani fighting side by side, their emotional bonds creating a strength that pure logic could never achieve. She watched as Minho and Lyra moved in perfect harmony, each anticipating the other's actions, their love making them more effective than either could be alone. "By the eternal crystals," Elder Zara whispered. "The humans do not weaken us. They make us stronger." With the Villani reinforcements and their restored crystal network communication, the tide of battle turned quickly. The AI beings, faced with an enemy they could not understand, retreated to their ships and fled into hyperspace. As the danger passed, Elder Zara approached Minho and Lyra. The young couple stood together, their hands clasped, both breathing heavily. "From the fight, human Minho," the Elder said formally, "you asked us to judge whether your emotions were strength or weakness. Today you have shown us the answer." She turned to address the gathered humans and Villani. "Love does not make beings weak. It makes them willing to fight for something greater than themselves. Emotion is not chaos. It is the force that binds different hearts into one purpose." Elder Zara placed her hands on both Minho and Lyra's shoulders. "If you still wish to bond your souls together, the Council will not stand in your way. But know that you will be the first of what I believe will be many such unions between our peoples." As the Elder spoke, Minho felt a change in the air around them. The other humans were looking at Lyra not as an alien, but as the woman who had helped save their lives. The Villani warriors regarded the research station crew not as outsiders, but as allies who had proven themselves in battle. "Yes," Minho said, his voice strong with certainty. "I still want to marry her." Lyra's answer was not in words, but in the brilliant flare of her bioluminescent markings and the warmth of her hand in his. And for the first time since arriving on Kepler 442, Minho knew that everything was going to be all right. The wedding preparations took 3 months, and they involved more diplomatic paperwork than Minho had ever imagined possible. Ambassador Nam spent countless hours on subspace communications with Earth's government and the Galactic Council, creating entirely new legal frameworks for interspecies marriage. "You two are making history," he told them one morning as they reviewed the final documents. The Galactic Council has officially recognized emotional compatibility as valid grounds for interspecies union. 17 other species have already submitted requests for similar legislation in their own territories. Dr. Sumin Park had become the unofficial wedding coordinator, a job she approached with the same enthusiasm she brought to studying alien cultures. "We are blending traditions from two completely different worlds," she explained to anyone who would listen. "This is the most complex cultural integration project ever attempted." The guest list alone was a diplomatic nightmare. Minho's parents, Sangho and Mi-young Kim, were coming from Earth on the first civilian transport ever allowed to travel to Kepler 442. Representatives from dozens of Galactic Council species had requested permission to attend. The Vellani Council of Elders would participate in their full ceremonial robes. "I am nervous about meeting your parents," Lyra confessed to Minho one evening as they walked through the research station's expanded gardens. The facility had grown considerably since first contact, with new buildings and landing areas to accommodate all the visitors. "They will love you," Minho assured her, though privately he was also nervous. His parents were simple people from a farming community on Earth. They had never even met an alien before, let alone welcomed one into their family. His worries proved unfounded. When Sangho and Mi-young Kim first saw Lyra, their faces lit up with the same joy they had shown when Minho graduated from university. Mi-young immediately began fussing over her soon-to-be daughter-in-law, asking if she was eating enough and whether the station's medical facilities were adequate. "She is beautiful," Mi-young whispered to Minho in Korean, apparently forgetting that Lyra could read surface thoughts. "And she makes you happy. That is all any parent could want." Sangho, typically practical, was more interested in learning about Vellani agriculture. "Your people grow food in crystal caves?" he asked Lyra with genuine fascination. "How do you manage soil nutrients without sunlight?" The ceremony itself was scheduled to take place in the largest crystal cavern, where the natural acoustics would allow the Vellani crystal songs to harmonize with human music. Dr. Yoon had spent weeks ensuring that the underground environment would be safe for the human guests, while Elder Zara worked with Captain Lee to arrange seating for beings with vastly different physical requirements. 3 days before the wedding, Minho received an unexpected visitor. A young Vellani male named Kai approached him while he was working in his laboratory. "I must speak with you privately, human Minho," Kai said, his bioluminescent markings flickering with what appeared to be nervousness. They walked to a quiet corner of the station where they would not be overheard. Kai was younger than Lyra, probably barely an adult by Vellani standards. His markings were simpler than hers, indicating lower status in their society. "I was supposed to be Lyra's bonded partner," Kai said without preamble. "Before she met you, the elders had arranged for us to undergo soul bonding when we both came of age." Minho felt his heart sink. "I did not know. Lyra never mentioned an arranged marriage." "Because she chose to break the arrangement to be with you," Kai explained. "I came here to challenge you for her, as is my right under traditional law." For a moment, Minho's mind went blank with panic. Then he looked more carefully at the young Vellani's expression. Despite his formal words, Kai did not look angry or jealous. He looked relieved, but, Kai continued, "After seeing how she changed when she found love with you, I realized that I never wanted to force a bond that would make her unhappy. I came to give you my blessing, and to ask if you will take good care of her." Relief flooded through Minho's body. "With my life," he promised. Kai smiled, the first genuine expression Minho had seen from him. "Then I am happy for both of you. Love freely chosen is stronger than duty imposed by others." The wedding day dawned clear and bright, with both of Kepler 442's suns shining warmly overhead. The crystal cavern had been decorated with flowers from both Earth and the local planet, their different fragrances creating a unique perfume that would forever remind Minho of this day. Captain Lee, dressed in her formal uniform, served as the human officiant. Elder Zara, wearing ceremonial robes that seemed to contain the light of 1,000 stars, would conduct the Vellani soul bonding ritual. Ambassador Nam stood ready to certify the legal documents that would make their union official in the eyes of both human and galactic law. The guests filled the cavern with a rainbow of colors and sounds. Humans sat beside beings from worlds Minho could barely pronounce, all united by their curiosity about this unprecedented union. The crystalline walls amplified every whisper and sigh, creating a symphony of anticipation. When Lyra appeared at the cavern entrance, escorted by her family, the entire assembly fell silent. She wore a gown that combined human wedding traditions with Vellani formal wear. The fabric seemed to flow like liquid starlight, and her bioluminescent markings had been enhanced with ceremonial patterns that told the story of their courtship in glowing symbols. Minho, wearing his best formal suit with Vellani ceremonial bands around his arms, felt tears come to his eyes. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The ceremony itself was unlike anything that had ever been attempted. Captain Lee spoke about human marriage traditions, the promise to love and cherish through all of life's changes. Elder Zara conducted the ancient Vellani ritual of soul bonding, guiding Minho and Lyra through the telepathic connection that would link their minds and hearts forever. Do you, Minho of the human people, take this woman to be your wife, your partner, your equal in all things? Captain Lee asked. I do, Minho replied, his voice strong and clear. And do you, Lyra of the Vellani people, take this man to be your husband, your partner, your equal in all things? I do, Lyra said, and her bioluminescent markings flared with joy. Then came the moment Minho had been both anticipating and dreading. Elder Zara guided them through the soul bonding ritual, teaching them to open their minds and hearts completely to each other. For a terrifying instant, Minho felt his individual consciousness dissolving, merging with something larger and more wonderful than he had ever imagined. Then he was himself again, but not alone. Lyra's presence in his mind was like a warm light, comforting and strengthening him. He could feel her love, her happiness, her absolute commitment to their shared future. And through their bond, she felt the same from him. By the authority vested in me by Earth's colonial administration and the Galactic Council, Ambassador Nam announced formally, I now pronounce you married according to the laws of both your peoples. The cavern erupted in celebration. Human applause mixed with Vellani crystal songs and the various congratulatory sounds of a dozen other species. Minho and Lyra kissed while the crystals around them resonated with their shared joy, creating music that had never been heard before. At the reception, held in the research station's main hall, Minho's father gave a speech that brought tears to many eyes. When my son was young, Sango said, he used to look up at the stars and wonder what was out there. Today I learned that what was out there was not just new worlds and new knowledge, but new ways to love and be loved. Lyra is not just my son's wife. She is proof that the universe is bigger and more wonderful than any of us imagined. Elder Zara spoke next, her words translated for the human guests. Today, two species became one family. Today, we learned that love is not bound by the shape of one's body or the world of one's birth. Today, we took the first step toward a future where all beings can find happiness together. As the celebration continued into the night, Minho and Lyra slipped away to the observation deck where they had spent so many evenings talking and dreaming together. The stars above them seemed brighter than ever, full of infinite possibility. So, what happens now? Minho asked, holding his wife close. Now we build a life together, Lyra replied. We explore the universe. We learn from each other, and we show everyone that love really can conquer all differences. Through their soul bond, Minho could feel her certainty, her absolute faith in their future. And in that moment, looking out at the stars with the woman he loved beside him, he knew that they would face whatever challenges lay ahead together. The first interspecies marriage in galactic history was just the beginning. Within a year, 3 more human-alien couples had requested similar ceremonies. The research station on Kepler 442 became a diplomatic center where different species came to learn about cooperation and understanding. Minho and Lyra's love story became a legend told throughout the galaxy, proof that the universe was not divided by species barriers but united by the universal language of the heart. And every time someone asked how a simple plant scientist from Earth had managed to change the course of galactic history, the answer was always the same. He had wished he could marry her. And she had smiled and said, "Then you can." Sometimes love really is that simple.